Hello and welcome back to the Hyperspace Podcast. Wow, that's something I've not said in a while. My name is Sam, and today I'm joined by Mr. Michael Ghosh. We are back, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thanks. You?
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I actually counted it up. It's been 9 months.
9 months.
It has been
I thought it
nine.
was less than that.
Yeah, it is quite crazy since we've been gone. And I know we said we would do stuff on Visions. I know we said we'd do stuff on Book of Boba Fett. We probably still will do that. But now we are back for a Kenobi episode 1 breakdown. We're going to be looking at Easter eggs. We're going to be just talking about the first episode and giving our thoughts. And let's get straight into it. So this was a 55-minute episode and started with a recap of the first 3 films with a beautiful score over the top. What a fantastic way to start the show, Michael. I don't know about you, but that made me want to rewatch the prequels again.
I think I always want to rewatch the prequels when I'm reminded of the sheer brilliance of, they might not be the best dialogue wise, but I do love them. The dialogue is funny. But the sequences we saw were, we saw a lot from Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, and of course we saw Revenge of the Sith as well. God, I want to watch Revenge of the Sith so badly now.
Yeah, well, it did pick up pretty much in Revenge of the Sith because we started with younglings in the temple during Order 66. And I think this is the most devastating portrayal of Order 66 we've had to date. We had them escaping, but their master dies protecting them. We've really got a sense of the scale of Order 66. We have this wide shot of the temple, and you see Jedis everywhere falling as the 501st come into the temple and just wipe everyone out. And to see this through the eyes of children, I don't think we've had anything that almost shocking so far.
I think the only thing we can compare it to is when the kid says, "But Master Skywalker, there's too many of them. What are we gonna do?"
Yeah,
But I think seeing it from like their perspective, seeing their master go down, it really hits home how, like you said, wide scale it is. I think sometimes it's easy to forget how big the temple is
mm.
because we don't even see that many clones either. There aren't that many clones attacking the Jedi. It's a pretty even numbers. It just shows you how good they are at killing Jedi.
Yeah,
If they're not these, top tier level Jedi.
yeah. They didn't stand a chance. And it was just very cool again seeing the 501st in live action because any opportunity we could get to see them in live action is always good.
I've been wondering if they're CGI like in the prequels or if they're live action or not.
That's a good question. I have a feeling that they were CGI. I have a feeling just because of their movements gave me kind of that vibe. I don't know what you think.
I don't know. I assume they must be CGI just for the continuity as well, because otherwise it wouldn't match Revenge of the Sith.
Hmm. Yeah, that would definitely make sense. But cut to 10 years later on Tatooine, specifically Mos Eisley, a ship flies over and it pans to the ship belonging to the Inquisitors. We get our first look in live action at Reva, the new Inquisitor played by Moses Ingram, the fifth brother and the Grand Inquisitor, both who we've seen before in Rebels, who, speaking specifically about the Grand Inquisitor, they have definitely had some changes since the trailer in terms of appearance, because in the trailer they had normal eyes, a very oval head, and they just had normal teeth. But we get a look at them here and they have the pointy teeth like they have in Rebels. They have the yellow eyes like in Rebels, and his head isn't as round. So they have listened to fans.
I mean, I thought I might have just got some like it might be mistaken, but I thought in some of the later trailers they had changed it. But I think now I can see that they did change it, which is why it was less off-putting. because in the original trailer, I can see why people were so upset because it wasn't intimidating. It was just a bit. It was very Megamind. It was just a
Yeah,
bit ridiculous looking.
yeah, Megamind is definitely one way to put it, but I don't mind the new design. I think they've definitely
No,
improved it, and it's
I think
definitely not as off-putting.
I think the Sith Eyes was a nice touch as well. And
Mm.
I know that they've tried to take a slightly different approach with the Rebels characters to make them a bit fresher. So they sort of the actors didn't took a slightly different approach to them because they're younger and they're at a different stage than in Rebels. But I'm glad that they made them at least look very much like they do in Rebels, so it's more familiar to fans.
Yeah, and you got to remember that people criticizing what someone looks like, a lot of the characters in Rebels of the Clone Wars look nothing like they look in live
Yeah.
action. I mean, Dooku in Clone Wars has this really weird face. You have Yoda appearing a few times in,
Palpatine.
yeah,
They
Palpatine as
did Palpatine dirty.
yeah, exactly. It's just down to the creative freedom of the design. And here, I think they look good. I think they look menacing. They enter a bar looking for a Jedi called Nari, who reveals himself after Reva throws a knife at the barman. She's a bit of a loose cannon, this Reva. I mean, she hasn't been on screen for too long, but she's definitely a loose cannon.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that she very much contrasts the Inquisitors we've seen both in this show and the two episodes we've been able to watch, and also in Rebels. Because in Rebels, they're especially in Rebels, they're far more by the book. There's sort of a logic to what they're doing. There's a couple examples where they sort of go ham, but it's not quite. It's never that level, and they certainly not in Rebels. They don't interact with the public so much as
Yeah.
they seem to in Obi-Wan. Like when they all arrive, I was surprised to see three of them come out of the ship, to be honest. Because normally when they're in Rebels or even in the Ahsoka novel, or you know, they just sort of show up on their own, or two of them show up maybe. I've never seen like three of the. I don't think we've ever seen three of them all show up at once. And the cases we have, I think, might be the episode with I can't remember if the episode with Darth Maul Ahsoka, if that had two or three Inquisitors, but I think that was two as well. So we don't see too many Inquisitors flying around together.
Yeah. Well, you say flying around together. Hopefully, we get the spinny helicopter lightsabers. Could you
I
imagine if we
hope
got that in
so.
live action?
I don't think they'll do it, but the thing is, I hope they do, because as much as that was ridiculous, it's part of the lore of the Star Wars universe now. They
Yeah.
haven't done any of the lightsaber spinning. I don't really care if they fly. I just want to see the lightsaber just like they hold it in place and just spin.
Yeah. Well, they had it in episode 2, which we'll
Yeah,
talk about in another in the next
they had
podcast.
it a
But
little bit.
yeah, but going back to Nari, Reva then tries to kill him, but the Grand Inquisitor stops her and he escapes. It's very clear that she has a fixation with Kenobi and doesn't want to keep hunting these smaller prey, as she called it. We then find ourselves at a factory-like establishment mining meat out of what looks like a dead crate dragon. I think that's what it is, where we find a struggling Obi-Wan Kenobi. And Michael, how good is it to have Ewan McGregor back in this role?
It's quite like I'm going to say a sort of boring scene. It tells a lot about Obi-Wan's character, but I was so hyped just to see Ewan McGregor playing Obi-Wan Kenobi again. I think it's what the fans wanted. It's what we've been speculating for before it was announced, for years before it was announced. I think maybe it was like 2016, 17. There was a fan Obi-Wan Kenobi film, at least the trailer for one. So people have been wanting this for a very long time.
Yeah, people have been wanting ever since the prequels were looked on a lot more lightly, because remember when they came out, they got ridiculed, and now we're looking back at them and they're just such great films. I mean, you mentioned earlier, not necessarily from a dialogue point of view, but just there's so many great things. There's great action. Duel of the Fates is fantastic. The fight between
Story.
the fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan and Mustafar is amazing. See, Order 66 is harrowing events. So yeah, it's great to have Obi-Wan, but we get an introduction to where he's been staying, and he's basically living in a cave very far away from civilization. And he has a little droid unit beneath the sand which keeps popping up to say if there's someone inside. I want to know if that's like a proper R2 unit, he's just fully submerged, or whether that's like just a little droid. Because I saw that and I was like, I genuinely at first thought, is that like R3 or something? Is it just going to submerge from the sand?
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that too, or whether it's just the heads, because sometimes you see the heads, like I think we've had a few scenes with Jawas in like the Mandalorian or in the original trilogy where there's like heads of droids, and I was wondering if it's just that like the dome part of the astromech otherwise, and he's just rigged it up to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm interested to see if like there'll be like a boss battle at the end, and then he'll just like go back to his cave and just dig up the droid and just bring it with him or something. That would be interesting. But
I don't think we'll go back to Tatooine for a while though.
yeah, I feel like there's been quite a bit of media on Tatooine, and a few people
Yeah,
are a bit like, yeah, can we just get off this planet? I mean, Anakin didn't like it, we didn't like it. It's too much sand. But
there is too much standard. As much as that's a meme, there is too much sand. Jakku and Tatooine look exactly the same.
yeah,
The only difference is at least Tatooine is more interesting.
yeah, Tatooine has a lot more interesting places like Mos Eisley, Mos Espa, and there are some interesting locations there. Inside Obi-Wan Kenobi's home is a Jawa called Tika, who sells him the ship that Luke is playing with in A New Hope, which I think is really cool. It's a T-16 Skyhopper, the ship that the rebels actually used to train pilots due to them having a very similar controls to an X-wing. So that's a nice little Easter egg there. Him playing with in A New Hope, him playing with a ship that he later ends up in an X-wing, but he ends up playing with a Skyhopper, which is used to train people to get in an X-wing. I thought that was quite a nice Easter egg.
I think I think it was cool that we know Obi-Wan gave it to him as well. It's not we don't always need the backstory for everything, but where they just insert it in a way where you don't need to know it, it's not super important. It's really cool when they do it like that, like this. Unless you've watched the original trilogy as many times as we have, or even more, you might not even notice that's what it is. But it still adds to the story. I think it's cool. I think it's cool. Again, I think we're going to see it a few places here where there's a lot of world building stuff that we haven't seen in Rebels, which is probably the closest period piece to this. Somewhere halfway in between the start of the Empire and the Rebellion.
Yeah, completely. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Tika also tries to sell Obi-Wan parts that he actually stole from him. So Tika's a little cheeky Jawa, and I think the dialogue, it was the first time that Obi-Wan speaks in this episode, and it's just great to hear him slip back into the role so seamlessly. He has his sarcasm, he has just everything about it, and it's just perfect. And I'm just so happy to be having this show, having Ewan McGregor back.
I think we all are.
Yeah, there is definitely a sense of that. Obi-Wan has a nightmare of the events that occurred in the first three films. He calls out to Qui-Gon, but no response. Now, we watched this together, Michael. We were watching at the same time. And I said, I'm pretty sure even before this, that I had a feeling that Liam Neeson will return to play Qui-Gon as like a Force ghost, or just like even speaking to Obi-Wan in this series. And then we had this, and there are several times through these episodes where he does call out to Qui-Gon. So I do have a feeling that we will see him return.
I mean, we saw him in not Liam Neeson, but Qui-Gon Jinn. Maybe it was. I don't think it was Liam Neeson who voiced him, but we saw Qui-Gon Jinn appear to Yoda. But that was how he appears is different to how the other Force ghosts appear. It's a bit more sporadic, and I think he's not able to control it the same way Yoda and Obi-Wan are able to control it in the original trilogy. So I think it will be something for us to see how they're going to do it as well, because they've obviously already sort of done Qui-Gon Jinn before in the Clone Wars. So it'd be interesting to see how they do it in live action, and whether Liam Neeson would come back. He has said he would come back, but I think he specified he wouldn't come back for a TV show. I think he said he'd only come back for a film.
Yeah, we'll have to see, because he has been confirmed in a TV show at Star Wars Celebration. He was confirmed as coming back to play Qui-Gon Jinn in an animated series. So
which is surprising.
Yeah, which is surprising. Yeah. So maybe it'll be different with live action and won't come out for live action. We'll have to wait and see. But he is confirmed as playing Qui-Gon Jinn in Tales of the Jedi, and for scenes where he's younger, his son will play him. So the fact that him and his son are committed to one series, surely
they're probably committed to Kenobi. I mean, I think we see with a lot of the Star Wars ones, they have similar contracts to Marvel, where they're I would say multi-movie, but they're multi-movie TV deals. So it's, you know what, that makes it more likely that he already has a contract with Disney for Star Wars, and maybe his contract was originally for Kenobi and it's extended beyond that. I'd assume at his request. He had, I mean, that interview where he said that was from, I think, a couple of years ago, but it might also be the case where he was already signed up to do it and he's denying it the same way Andrew Garfield denied stuff, and the way even Ewan McGregor denied Kenobi for years, even though he knew it was going to happen. So I guess we'll see what happens. I hope he comes back, because I think he's a character that, especially I guess us prequel fans, really love and wish had, I guess, been able to be more in the prequels beyond episode 1 and the bits of the Clone Wars he's in.
Yeah, I feel like he's definitely a bit underused, because he's a great actor and he actually cares about the character. Like the amount of chat shows or talk shows he's gone on, and he's just showed off his Qui-Gon lightsaber that he keeps to himself, and he often talks about the passion he has to playing Qui-Gon, how much he enjoyed it. So it'd be great if he could return, and I have a feeling he will.
I think that's part of the reason why he's been picky at what he would do for the character, because he seems to be one of these actors who people might say the critics didn't like the films. He loved the films, and that's and he knows the fans. I think he's one of the people who realized, when he did it, it's a Star Wars film. There's people enjoyed it when it came out. I know maybe it's a different case with the sequels, although we won't go into that. But we know when the prequels came out, there was a generation of fans, our generation of fans, I guess, who loved those films, and I think he was one of the people who were aware of it. Whereas even Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor, they said in interviews they didn't realize until this show, 20 years later, how much people, well, almost 20 years later, I think 17, 18 years later, how much people wanted this.
Yeah,
how much people want these prequel characters to come back.
Yeah, if we see him, that would be pretty awesome.
It'd be amazing.
It really would be. Obi-Wan then checks on Luke on the farm, where Luke is pretending he is a fighter pilot, and Obi-Wan drops around the T-16. On his way back, the Jedi from town approaches him, Nari, asking for help. And here you can just see how defeated Obi-Wan is. He says, "The time of the Jedi is over." These are the words that he says to him, and he basically just tells him to bury his lightsaber and hide. And in the end, this doesn't work out very well for Nari, bless him. But it does really show the state that Obi-Wan's in. He's like deprived of hope.
I think there's a bit of contrast provided when he sees Luke like he runs off from Owen and pretends to be like a fighter pilot. I was first of all when I saw that scene, I just had the words "now this is pod racing" come into my head. But I think maybe that he has some hope for the boy, but not for the Jedi. And even like you said, he doesn't seem like Obi-Wan that we know from especially the Clone Wars and Attack of the Clones. He's still sarcastic, like you said, but there's less like humor towards it. It's much drier than it was in you know before Order 66 and Anakin turn.
Yeah, this is an Obi-Wan who, for the last 10 years, has worked a low-paid job mining meat from crate dragons, who doesn't have any interaction with anyone. He's very isolated. And you can tell from Ewan's performance, and you can tell just by dialogue. And yeah, it's interesting to see. But what I didn't expect is we're then transported to Alderaan, where we're introduced to a young Princess Leia, played by Vivian Lyra Blair. And two things I didn't expect. First of all, we were talking while watching it, Alderaan is just the most underused planet. I really wish that they had used it for. And secondly, I did not expect Princess Leia to show up in anything more than a cameo in this show.
No, I mean, we're going to talk about it, especially when we get in further into this episode and into episode 2. But I love this version of Leia we're getting. It's exactly like what we would want. And I wasn't really expecting very much when we got to Alderaan to see of Leia. Like you said, I thought it was going to be a cameo. Maybe we see Bail if we're lucky. But maybe there might just be some wider universe stuff we'll learn from Bail. I didn't expect to have that much screen time even that early on in the episode.
Yeah, completely. And as you said, Vivian Lyra Blair is sensational, I think. She captures Leia's sass, her rebellious nature, her care for droids is really enforced. And I feel like something will come full circle by the end of the series, something to do with that. But yeah, I think she's fantastic and perfect casting from the first two episodes anyway. She is playing in the woods when her mum comes to collect her, but we find out that she is being watched. And then we have a transition back to Tatooine where Kenobi is back doing his 9 till 5, working 9 till 5. What a way to make a living. Yeah, I just had that going through my head, just watching him slaving away. And
I love that.
in town, he meets Owen Lars, who isn't very happy. He's not a big Kenobi fan, unlike we are, who confronts him about the toy. Enter the Inquisitors. Raver, the loose cannon she is, cuts off a lady's hand for basically confronting her. She then confronts Owen and threatens to kill his family if nobody reveals where the Jedi they're looking for. And the fifth brother stops her from killing Owen. We have this interesting dialogue here between Owen and Obi-Wan, where Kenobi is like, the boy has to be trained, and Owen fires back with, like, he trained his father, and it's like, oh, there's a big tension there. And despite the fact that I guess the original promise was that Luke would be trained, and that was what the promise was at the end of Revenge of the Sith, Owen doesn't like Kenobi at all.
I always found this strange in A New Hope. Really, after what when you've watched the prequels and you watch A New Hope, it is Owen's such a weird like character, but I think it makes more sense in it because we've had this contextualization in Kenobi where you see how much the Jedi are hunted. There is at least some reasoning for him hating them because they he knows how much at risk Luke is if they find out who he is. And if he starts displaying traits, he doesn't know what happened to Anakin though either. So he doesn't know how important he is.
Yeah, well, most of the universe at this point assumes that Anakin died on Mustafar. That is the consensus. Most people don't know about Darth Vader's real origin. So Kenobi does find out later on, but at this point he is completely in the dark. We then jump back to Alderaan. The beauty of the planet is so clear to see, and we meet Bail Organa, and I'm so happy he's in this. He genuinely is one of my favorite characters. I don't know why, but whenever he's on screen, he just makes me smile because his just like character is just so he's so loving. He's like a brilliant father to Leia. Their chemistry is awesome. It's very different to Leia and her mum. Leia and her dad are very much like the same person, pretty much, and it's just awesome to have Bail Organa back.
I think, like you said, she very much takes after her father, and it's quite funny because when the mother's not there, he'll tell her something completely different to what the mother's been saying. Like he sort of encourages her. Like she when she goes into the woods, she's spying on all of these ships passing by, and she's wondering what they're going and doing. And her father asks her what she's seen, and sort of encourages her. And you can see her. The mother says to stop encouraging her.
Yeah, it is. It's cool, these interactions. We also have a shot of C-3PO in the background, which is nice. Another little cameo, and Leia destroys her cousin in just after her cousin starts taunting her. Leia fires back with hot ammunition, and I hope he died when Alderaan blew up. I'm just going to say it straight.
Yeah, I remember when we were talking while we were watching it. That's what you said, as you hope he died in Alderaan, and honestly, so do I. He's such a spoilt prick, to be honest.
Yeah,
like he's just. I think you know, Leia really like absolutely ripped him a new one, like you said. Like the sass level we get from her is just perfect.
Yeah, no,
she's definitely one of the sassiest Star Wars characters in the Star Wars
100%.
universe. She's there with like Han Solo. She's definitely above Han Solo, and like maybe she's there with like Lando and Hondo.
Yeah, no, she's definitely up there. There's a line between Bail Organa and Leia where Bail Organa says, "One day all of Alderaan will look up to you," and this is quite. It's funny because at the end, when Alderaan is blown up, you have this image of everyone looking to the sky, to the Death Star, where Princess Leia is, and this is basically what does happen. Everyone is looking to her, but they're looking at the Death Star about to die, and I feel like it's just such it's a line which adds so much, because knowing that everyone does look up to Leia, but not in the way that Bail Organa thinks.
I think also especially the refugees of Alderaan, the people who are the few people who are off-world also look to her for leadership. I think it's actually kind of a shame that of all the planets that could have been blown up, it was Alderaan, because it's just one of these planets we obviously don't visit because it's not in the original trilogy, so we don't see it in Boba Fett or Mandalorian, and we're not going to see it in any of the other future projects that are set after the original trilogy. So hopefully we get a few more scenes in Alderaan, or if they do another spin-off show, or another season of Kenobi, which I don't think they will. I think that would be cool if they explore it a bit more.
Yeah, I would like to see more Alderaan. Leia is told to apologize, but instead, as always, runs to the woods where, after smoking some pirates, is eventually captured. Now, there is quite a bit of criticism online that the pirates are way too incapable and that they should be doing way better than being smoked by a little girl, and that they're basically jogging very slowly, and they're like, it's almost comedic them falling over branches and stuff. I don't know what you think of this.
I mean, I think to a certain degree I can agree with that, but I also think, first of all, it's Star Wars. It's all a bit silly half the time, anyways, in a good way. But also, the thing is, she knows those words. Like, she spends a lot of her time in those woods, and she's probably used to the terrain. Whereas the pirates, or the mercenaries, or whatever they are, aren't used to those
Mm,
conditions or the terrain, or going around that planet, and they don't know the woods as well as she does either. So maybe it's a mixture of their incapability and I think people not crediting Leia's capability as well.
yeah. Well, I imagine it's also tough doing a chase scene with a little girl being chased by
Mm.
adults, because at the end of the day, the adults are going to have way more capabilities than she does. So there is that tough balance. And I'm not that annoyed with it. I think
Mm.
it's a bit, I don't know, corny almost, but it's not that bad. It's not the end of the world. And yeah, people are kicking up way too much a fuss about it. But it's the same people that kick up a fuss about everything Star Wars, anything they can do wrong. They're always looking for the negative and not the positive, which is
I,
just frustrating.
I think there's no one who hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans.
Well, that is the saying. It's completely correct. No one does.
And I don't think Star Wars fans, anyone hates Star Wars fans as much as Star Wars fans hate Star Wars fans either.
Yeah. It is just such a love-hate relationship between everyone. It is crazy. We have Obi-Wan getting a transmission from Bail and Breha Organa asking for help. He says no, but after coming into Mos Eisley, Obi-Wan sees the Jedi Nari that Inquisitors were hunting, hung up by ropes and dead. Are you that disappointed that he died?
I don't think anyone was. It was sort of annoying.
Yeah, he was pretty. I wouldn't go say he was annoying, but he's
It was
not.
a
I
bit
mean,
dense.
he didn't have much character. Like, we barely saw him. It's not the end of the world.
I,
He
I,
was always going to die. I mean, I called it immediately. We were both like, yeah, he's
mm, yeah,
surviving.
he's dead. He's dead. I think he's not the brightest lightsaber in the box. I'll put it that either. He was told he harasses Obi-Wan for no reason. I mean, I get why he'd ask Obi-Wan for help, but surely he must realize that the best thing they can do is hide for
Mm.
now.
Yeah, I also just think that when the Inquisitors rock up at first, why? Well, he can see the ship. He knows they're rocking up. Go hide. Don't sit in a pub where you're the only one on your table. He was so bait, and it's just like, yeah, his death was coming. When Obi-Wan returns, he is greeted by Bail, and there's a lot of similarities to the Last Jedi in the way, or no, the end of the Force Awakens with Luke's reveal, where they're both in a cloaked,
Mm.
both cloaked and turn the other way, and then the way they turn, it's very similar. But it's Bail Organa who's definitely not as cranky as Luke was in that film, and he does persuade Obi-Wan to go to new planet Daiyu, which we'll talk a bit more about in the next episode, to rescue Leia. The difference between Owen and Bail is just so clear to see. Ben wants Obi-Wan to have nothing to do with Luke, but Bail says there's nobody he trusts more with her life than Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and I think again, I think especially when you've watched the Clone Wars, that makes sense. I think it's sort of mentioned, oh, they fought in the war together, or that they were, they were in the war together. But I think that sort of is emphasized when you watch the Clone Wars and you know what they've been through together. You can see why there's that trusting relationship, especially at the end of the Revenge of the Sith as well. You sort of
Yeah.
see that you see why Bail Organa is asking for his help, and not using his like guards or the an entire army.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is great to see their relationship, as you said, from the prequels. They knew each other, and yeah, their relationship is very good. And it's good to see that Bale trusting Obi-Wan. We then have this awesome scene of Obi-Wan digging up his lightsaber, which is in a box along with Anakin's, which we know that he does give to Luke in A New Hope. And there was a shot, one of the shots where he was digging it up was a very similar shot to what they've been using in Book of Boba Fett, because it was this kind of, I don't know, the shot was just strange. It was very similar to when Boba Fett is crawling out of the Sarlacc pit. It was a very similar type of shot to that. I don't know what it is, but they had this effect on the shot, and I don't know why, but there was just parallels to Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of I think there's a lot of parallels with the other stuff the Star Wars universe has done. Found it really quite tragic when Obi-Wan had said to Nari, the time of the Jedi is over.
Mm.
Very much similar to what Luke said in the Last Jedi.
Yeah, well, I'm going to mention The Last Jedi a bit more at the end, but we then have it revealed that Reva hired the pirates to try and kill Obi-Wan. Her motives for trying to kill Kenobi are very much unknown, but my early theory is that she was one of the younglings in the Jedi Temple. I mean, there is a character, one of the younglings in the first shot, that did look a bit like her. So potentially a youngling from the temple.
Maybe we know most of them. I think most of them, or not, if not all of them, are ex-Jedi, turns to the dark side. So it's possible.
Yeah, definitely possible. And I have a feeling that's where it'll go. And then we have Obi-Wan boarding a ship and end of episode. Michael, what were your thoughts on the first episode of Kenobi?
I thought it was great. Especially just seeing Obi-Wan Kenobi back, seeing Bail Organa, seeing the sass from Leia, and we sort of see where this I guess adventure is going in the show a bit more. So we know what's going on in the next episode, and we have something to we know what the show is going to give us. I think a bit more than we did with just the trailers.
Yeah, I think that it was a great first episode. This show looks like it's going to follow Luke's character arc in The Last Jedi, but do it a lot better. Well, that's what it looks like to me anyway, because you have Kenobi, who's a bit of a hermit. He's frustrated. The Jedi need to end, or whether he had this dialogue. He's negative about the Jedi, and it looks like he's going to have this kind of similar arc to Luke, but it will most likely be executed a lot better. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I maybe I see it could go in that direction.
Yeah, it is. It is all up in the air. We'll have to wait and see. I also really do like Reva. I think she's a cool new character. She's a change from the Inquisitors we're used to. But I feel like she's a very set character arc, and I think it's quite clear what it'll be. It'll most likely be she was left by Obi-Wan when she was a youngling in the temple or something. She has built up this hate for it, or she had this thing with Kenobi and Kenobi left her. She's built up hate, and at the end will turn good. I mean, that's a character arc that has been in so many movies that has been a similar thing. Do you think that will be the character arc that she will go down?
Possibly. Yeah, possibly.
But yeah, what it's the end of episode 1, and I'm very excited. I'm very happy. It was a good first episode, and I'm looking forward to the second. But yeah, that wraps up our podcast, breaking down everything from Kenobi episode 1. We are going to release Kenobi episode 2 breakdown tomorrow, so stay for that. But yeah, thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, comment down below your thoughts on Kenobi, and we'll see you in the next one.